I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with a head. Intercepted. 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
For the fourth straight season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are NFC South champions, and for the fifth straight season, have punched their ticket to the NFL postseason. A 27-19 victory over the New Orleans Saints extends their season record to 10-7 and has clinched them the NFC South for another year in a row. It was a gritty division battle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out there today, Evan. A lot to cover here as we unpack the final regular season game for the Buccaneers. A lot of history out there today as well. Mike Evans gets his 1,000 yards. Baker Mayfield throws 40 touchdowns on the season, a career high for him. And some other playmakers stepping up on both sides of the football. But welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast, live on YouTube today, following one hell of a win. That was a tale of two halves for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they needed to buckle down, prove that they could compete in that second half after really looking lethargic on both sides of the football there in the first half. One of the sloppier first halves of football we've seen from the Buccaneers all year. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish. Your thoughts on that contest? The Bucs pull out a win.
They sure do, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's a tale of two halves, right? Obviously, the Bucs. I mean, look, the Bucs defense, give them credit where credit's due. They continue their dominance in the second half, I guess you could say, really limiting opponents. Bleav that New Orleans only scored 3 points in the second half today, so again, keeping that streak of being pretty darn good. I think the most points since the bye week, the most points they've allowed in the second half is 10, and that was to the Carolina Panthers a couple weeks ago. So they've done a really good job of buckling down the second half. Offense, I think they went back to the basics a little bit, and I still am a little mystified as to why they didn't run it as much. And look, there's negatives in this game, right? And there's things that need to be cleaned up if they want to win next week, right? Because if they play the way that they did this week, next week they're going to be going home, right? They got to play better, but they did do a good job of managing the game. I think making some big plays down the stretch. Obviously, Jalen McMillan had 2 big plays, one on the 4th and 8, and then the other one, the big touchdown. 2 great throws by Baker Mayfield as well. So really, and Mayfield helping with his legs, right, making some big plays. I Bleav 3rd and 14, picked up the first down there. So he had some clutch plays late in this game, and they were able to pull out the win. And shout out to the defense also, getting that stop on 4th and 5, allowing Mike Evans to get an opportunity to get his 1,000 yards. Great, everybody knew where the ball was going. Good job scheming it up for him, be able to get him basically a screen pass, right? Everybody clear out, block. He gets, I think it was 7 yards. I think it was. That was the gain, I think. So got a little over 1,000. So, yeah, a really great thing to see there. Bucky Irving, don't know if it was 100% smart to score the touchdown there, right? Because you make it an 8-point game, it's still a one-possession game, and you give the ball right back to New Orleans. So, but I know that's difficult to say, in the moment there. But, yeah, I mean, like you said, tale of two halves. It was looking like at halftime that this was going to be maybe a podcast where there was going to be a lot more questions, than answers. And now instead of talking about an off season, which would have been a lot of very interesting conversations, we now get the prep, for a playoff game again and be able to do this. At least one more preview show on the docket for this week.
Yeah, and good on Todd Bowles and this defense that, again, for another week in a row, I think a lot of people are going to be quick to dismiss the defense because that was a very ugly first half. Like, they were not tackling very well. Yeah. The injuries, a car accident for Jordan Whitehead takes him out of this game. Mike Edwards goes down during this game. Some other guys look like they were shaken up at other points in the game. So you're obviously working with what you have, but coming out of that second half, 3 straight 3-and-outs. And when the Saints are in scoring position, it's field goals after that entire first half. They were doing whatever the hell they wanted. It didn't seem like the Bucs were competing with a lot of these passes. They did do a good job at getting the ball out of Spencer Rattler's hands very quickly. He was taking advantage of a lot of soft zone coverage, which we have seen these quick and efficient young quarterbacks do in the past. But the Buccaneers took away all of those opportunities for Rattler in the pass game in the second half. And again, the offense finally getting into a rhythm. They couldn't find much of a rhythm until that skirmish on the opening possession for the Buccaneers on offense. Baker Mayfield stood over the safety, kind of jawing back and forth, some pushing and shoving. And I think from that moment there on out, it kind of lit a fire up under the entire team. And the offense was able to find some more rhythm as the game went on, obviously put up more points in that second half, and put this Saints team away. Phones are on today, though. We'd like to hear from you. 305-224-1968, the meeting ID 747-973-0150. We got our first call from the 941. You're on the Cannon Fire podcast. Who's this?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Hello, I'm Andrew. I'm calling from Bradenton. Well, from Bradenton, but I'm just leaving the stadium right now. Oh my gosh.
I feel like the stadium went through all the emotions today. They were so quiet and then so loud by the end of it.
Absolutely. At one point when the rest just kept playing with our emotions with where they want to put us back in that one drive. I don't know what it was. I totally forgot. My apologies.
No, it's okay.
I'll tell you something. Like I personally feel bad for all of Bucs Nation who wasn't there, because especially when Mike got his 1,000 yards, that place freaking erupted, and I felt like I wanted to cry. Like, he deserved this. Oh my gosh, that was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, a big-time moment for Mike Evans. I mean, seriously, one of the best to ever do it in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. Mike Evans, if you're living under a rock and you're just now joining us, Mike Evans has recorded his 11th consecutive 1,000-yard receiving season, the longest such streak to begin a player's career. In doing so, he has also tied Pro Football Hall of Famer Jerry Rice, who had 11,000-yard consecutive seasons from 1986 to 1996. Yeah, I think we talked about it all season long. You know, missing games with injury, you knew it was going to be an uphill battle, but this record means a lot to a guy like Mike Evans, and I think it means a lot to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan base, because we've had a lot of great players come and go, but Mike Evans is forging out, a top 10 wide receiver career of all time, and he's doing it in a Buccaneers uniform. And I think that means a lot to the fans, because he's a bona fide Hall of Famer at this point. This accomplishment for him today, just putting him up a little bit further on that list. But Andrew, any more thoughts today? It seemed like a raucous crowd. They were very quiet at times. You had the Bucky chants pop up when he made the play, big touchdown to seal the deal. Yeah. And then obviously blowing the roof off the place with the Mike Evans reception. But any other thoughts from today?
Oh, yeah, real quick. There are some things we need to clean up. We can't begin to struggle in the first half, because I don't think we're going to be able to get that done whether we play. I don't know who we're going to play. I think the winner of Detroit and Minnesota, or I don't know where the seating is. I guess we'll see. But yeah, some things we got to clean up. But all that was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, you guys have a great show. And God bless. Thank you. Go Bucs.
Appreciate you, man. Go Bucs. We'll talk to you soon.
So really quick, he mentions the seating, and I wanted to get out in front of this. So right now, the Buccaneers, right now, if everything would be the 4 seed, okay? But if the Rams lose, the Buccaneers become the 3 seed. So the Rams and Seahawks are playing right now. So right now, we actually don't know where the Bucs are going to end. So they could be the 3 seed, they could be the 4 seed. If they are the 3 seed, I Bleav they would play the Commanders, because I Bleav the Commanders are the 6.
Now, I
Bleav they're locked into that.
I think that game was, I don't know what the elements were. I don't know what decided what, but big time upset in Lambeau. The Bears beat the Packers for the first time since 2018. Does that affect the Washington situation?
No, so it doesn't. If it is Washington 1, it doesn't change. So Washington is now 6, and Green Bay is 7. So Green Bay will travel to Philly to play the Eagles next week, and Washington will go to either Tampa or Los Angeles. So, and then if the Rams win today, though, in the 4 o'clock window, like I said, they just started. That game's still nothing right now. As of when we're doing this, and we'll keep you guys updated throughout the show if there is any scoring updates there, but. If the Rams were to win that game, the Buccaneers would be the 4 seed, and then their opponent would be the loser of tonight's game between the Lions and the Vikings. Obviously, in Tampa, they're going to be hosting a playoff game no matter what, but it's just their opponent isn't necessarily set yet.
Let's get into some individual performances today for the victorious Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll start with the quarterback, Evan. Baker Mayfield, 21 for 32, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. I don't know if I would put that rough first half on Baker. I mean, off target, a couple of plays, missed his guys, but really the entire offense was off rhythm. Both sides of the football was off rhythm. I mean, we even had room for a special teams blunder today with a nightmare punt from the rookie Jake Browning. I thought a gritty performance from Baker today. Only had 1 interception, which was, somebody, I think was it Chase Young got a hand on it at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
Multiple plays made today by the Saints getting a hand on footballs at the line of scrimmage. So, aside from the deflected interception, I thought, really some of the most gutsy plays of the day were that big-time 28-yard scramble towards the end of the second half of the game. He really put his body on the line out there today. I think today was fine for Baker. The ebbs and flows of the game, I guess, were on full display today.
Yeah, I mean, I think he got the job done, and like I say, made some clutch plays in the fourth quarter. I think a lot of times, doing it with his legs. Yeah, I mean, so it had 9 carries for 68 yards. So I mean, that'll work.
I think it's a career high for him.
Probably. So yeah, Bucky, he was the second leading rusher for the Buccaneers. So Rachaad White, no carries today. And
that sucks ass because I put him on my parlay today, and literally everything else hit. I was great. I got Levante David over on tackles and assists. Thank you, betting the Bucs, for hooking that up. I took the over on Baker Mayfield rushing yards. He was running like a madman out there today. I took the over on Bucky Irving. He finishes with 89. The line was 89.5. So that was brutal. But yeah, they didn't hand the ball to Rachaad White one time. I thought he was going to be good for 25 yards, but it's why you play the game.
Right, but I mean, and the numbers, when you look at Mayfield's numbers, they're not going to be spectacular. They're not going to be anything that jumps, off the screen at you. But they were efficient enough. Yeah, the interception, sort of a tough break there. It gets tipped. He was looking for Mike there, and I think if there's a little bit more on the ball, because obviously it got tipped, so there's a little less on that ball. I think it's probably a completion, to be honest with you. I don't think it's an interception. So an unlucky break there for Mayfield, but like I said, made the plays. The 4th and 8 from midfield. It's a gutsy call, right? Credit to Todd Bowles for making that call for going for it on 4th down. And a great ball by Mayfield there to Jalen McMillan. So it was cool to see McMillan come out with some big plays, but then Baker, obviously scrambling, and then finds McMillan in the end zone there. So yeah, I thought he made a lot of critical plays down the stretch and did what needed to be done to win the ball game.
Mike Evans led the team. Mike Evans led the team in receiving today. 9 receptions, 89 yards, no touchdowns, but he does get his 1,000 yards. We just talked about the importance of that record. Another big-time day for Jalen McMillan. The rookie finishes his regular season strong. 5 receptions, 74 yards, and 1 touchdown.
By the way, he continues the streak. Ever since what game was it? Ever since the Vegas game.
Yeah.
It was ever since the Vegas game, I think. He's continued the streak. He's had a touchdown every game since.
Jalen McMillan's 7 receiving touchdowns across his last 5 games is tied for the most by a Buccaneer over a 5-game span in club history, right next to Mike Evans and Jimmy Giles. So, I mean, a historic end of the season here for Jalen McMillan, and I thought, man, that touchdown that he had was probably one of the more impressive touchdown passes from Baker Mayfield this year as well. He threw that thing. Tom Brady was up in the booth and said he threw that thing on a frozen rope. That was maybe pass of the day, I think. Yeah,
it was a really good pass. Yeah, like I said, I thought, he did what needed to be done, and yeah, in the first half, look, I mean, the entire offense, it wasn't just one guy. I didn't even think Liam Cohen had a particularly great game plan to start this game.
Oh,
I
dude.
mean, so I had sort of charted a little bit here. The first 11 plays that the Buccaneers ran, they had two running plays. It's the 30th ranked run defense, and they ran the ball twice. Two times they ran the ball. Then they finally had success and was able to get it down. They ended up having to kick a field goal right before the end of the half there. But they had success. How they had success? Well, they had a couple of big runs from Bucky Irving. That's how they had the success. I didn't really understand the first half game plan. And it was this game was quite similar to the Dallas game, right? You had on offense, you were facing a struggling run defense, and you decided to throw it a bunch for some unknown reason. And then on defense, you had an offense that you were going up against that was dinging and dunking their way down the field, controlling the time of possession. The Saints killed the Bucs in time of possession in the first half. Absolutely killed them.
The 1 minute drill at the end of the first half was just inexcusable. They were in a situation where you've got the broadcast team saying, I'm surprised the Saints are getting aggressive here inside a minute. They have a 7-point lead. And like you said, pitch and catch, dink and dunk, all the way down the field within a minute, uncontested. They do have to settle for a field goal, but they get points. They get points. And again, that's just a scenario that you can't find yourself in. But I wanted you to kind of expand on the Liam Cohen here game plan. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. But yeah, the Bucs only had 3 offensive possessions in that first half. The Saints did a really good job of just stretching their drives out, back-breaking conversions, keeping that defense on the field. So when you look at that first half, the second half, the offense found a rhythm. They got into the game, so adjustments were made. The right adjustments were made, and the Bucs have been very good at making adjustments at halftime since the bye week, one of the better teams in the NFL at doing so. But would you lay the blame more on a Liam Cohen game plan in that first half, or really just, I guess, the Bucs not really having any time to do anything? A slow start, was definitely what doomed them. I think 0-6 coming into this game when opponents had scored first, and the Saints, get the opening points there, and the Bucs still were lethargic for 2-3 more drives after that. So it was definitely worrying. But what do you mostly think impacted their first half?
Well, yeah, and really quick, not only that, they're down 2 scores twice, right? They were down 13-3, and then they were down 16-6. So that stat at the end of the broadcast showed that Baker Mayfield was 0-43 in his entire career when he was down 10 points in a game. So once he went down 10 points, it didn't happen. Now 1-43, and now the Buccaneers and the season 1-6. Yeah, when teams score first, when they don't score first. So yeah, I mean, look, it was a combination of both things. I think the offense could have been a little bit better. They basically got gifted that first field goal, right? I think we're gonna sort of forget that there was a penalty that the Saints had. The Bucs then were like, all right, we'll kick. Shout out to Chase McLaughlin for nailing the 52-yarder.
Money Mac.
So they got gifted that, basically. They were going to punt. They were going to give that ball right back. And then they go 3 and out the following drive. But, at the same time, the defense, they couldn't find a way to go off the field. And it was a lot of, they were winning. The Saints were winning, not necessarily on first down. They were winning on second down. They were making 2nd and 9s. They were turning them into 3rd and 3s. And when you do that consistently over and over again, it's tough for a defense to stop. So it's tough to completely criticize the offense because they only had 3 possessions in the first half.
Yeah.
New Orleans really controlled the entire pace of that first half. But at the same time, you would like to see your offense be a little bit more productive, maybe run the ball a little bit more. Like I said, first 11 plays, only 2 running plays against a run defense that has been awful, right? In New Orleans. So I do think that one thing, though, one interesting, it didn't even matter that the Buccaneers won because the Panthers defeated the Falcons in overtime. So
and what a shootout that game was,
man. 44-38. So how about that? I mean, I will say credit to Carolina for turning around Bryce Young. He's looked pretty good. I'll give him that. But I mean, like I said, I thought The offensive game plan in the first half was a little mystifying, and then the defensive execution in the first half. You mentioned the tackling.
Yeah.
It was brutal. It was. They had Jawan Johnson wrapped up, missed a couple of tackles, he got free. Clyde Edwards-Helaire wrapped up, missed a couple of tackles, he got free. That happened more than one occasion. That's something that they're going to need to clean up for next week, and hopefully Anton Winfield Jr., I Bleav, practiced this week. Was still ruled out, but he practiced. Especially with Whitehead being down, hopefully they can find a way to get Anton Winfield Jr. back in this lineup because they need a guy like him.
Yeah, and you talk about the efficiency for the most part of the Saints offense, especially in that first half. The Bucs defense, when they were forcing third downs, they did really well today. The Saints were only 3 for 13 on third down, but you wouldn't think they were with the way that they were.
Didn't feel that way. No,
yeah, it didn't feel that way with the way that they were keeping drives.
I do
alive.
Bleav the Saints converted, I Bleav, 2 fourth downs though as well. Yeah. I Bleav. So that helps too. Obviously, electing not to go for to go for it and doing it with relative ease as well.
And we also haven't even gotten into the penalties yet. A couple of nightmare sequences for both of these teams. 20 penalties between both franchises here. The Bucs, 12 penalties for 90 yards. The Saints, 8 for 77. Let's get to our next call here. Get some more thoughts on the game as we wrap up the regular season. You're on the Cannon Fire Podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Rhett and Evan. This is your old buddy Lee Ayers. I'm calling from freezing cold Ohio, celebrating a win today.
Good to hear you, Lee. How you doing?
Guys? I'm great. First of all, I want to suck up a little bit and say I honestly think you guys have the best Bucs content around. I watch you all the time. I love your channel. I love all the stuff that you bring all the time. But just wanted to say a couple of thoughts about the game today. Of course, super excited for the win. Tough win. We really, those of us that have been around a while, we didn't expect anything less than this today. Even, despite what the odds makers were trying to sell us and all this stuff, we knew it was going to be a dogfight. But it just coming out first half, the Bucs just were not on their normal game plan. I don't think offensively. I think that they were really caught up in trying to of course, get Mike the record today. I think they were really caught up in trying to blow the Saints out of there. I didn't see any rhythm offensively from the Bucs that normally is built upon what I think starts and stops with the run game this year. And glad to see him kind of straighten that out in the second half. Again, first half, though, defensively, no pressure on Spencer Rattler at all. And I think that only enhances the fact that we've got to find some edge rush help in the offseason, some way or another, to get that front four to generate some heat off the edge there. But, and last thing, just want to talk a little bit about Baker Mayfield for a second and why one of the reasons I love Baker is that, things were not going well for us today. They were rough. But Baker, not only with his play on the field and his talent, he has the ability emotionally to do something sometimes in these games to spark the rest of the team, to get them going. Like today, standing over the safety and just getting everybody involved, getting them pissed off basically, and like, okay, let's go, let's rally around our quarterback.
I love.
He has that ability. He showed it back at Oklahoma. Same thing, and that's the kind of fire that we need in a leader, and we've got. Yeah. And, that alone right there, I think is going to take us maybe not where we want to go this year. Who knows? But I think in the future, next year, if we can fill in some holes, I'm really excited where this team is going.
Yeah, I loved it, Lee. I love that energy from your starting quarterback of all people. Having leaders on the team to fire guys up is one thing, but when it's your starting quarterback, jawing off to the other team, getting the offensive line involved, I know it's pushing and shoving. I know we're used to that against the Saints, but that could not have come at a better time. I don't give a damn what Colin Cowherd is going to say about, what's the word I'm looking for? About the standard of my starting quarterback, wearing a backwards hat to his press conference or whatever he's going to have to say about it. I love that attitude from Baker Mayfield. He is a dog fighter. He is literally someone who is going to go down swinging every single time. And the Bucs needed that energy. They needed that shot in the ass. And, I said that at the top of the show, man. That was probably the turning point for the offense there and really helped them just establish an energy in the second half that they were not going to lose that game. So you love to see it, my friend. And that's the kind of energy you need headed into the postseason as well. We're going to win, and we're going to kick your ass no matter what. So final thoughts from you, Lee, before we let you go.
Well, yeah, just excited for the win. I really think that this, in some ways, was good for this Bucs team. I think it got them over the excitement and the anxiety of getting Mike that 1,000-yard season. Now they can focus on what they've got to do next week. Let's lock it in, boys. Let's get back to letting 7 tote the rock, and let's see what we can do in this postseason.
Absolutely, got to get these guys healthy and get them active. Lee, we appreciate you, brother. Go Bucs.
All right, bud. See you later.
We got some more callers here. We're going to go straight to them. From the 727, appreciate you hanging on for us. You're on the Cannon Fire Podcast. Who's this?
Hello, this is David.
David, how you doing, my friend?
Good. So today I'm going to start paraphrasing Todd Bowles. It's exciting.
Yes, it is exciting.
Yes, it was. It was exciting until the very end. I think a lot of things to learn with this victory today. Once again, big time adjustments on the defense on the second half. And at least in my opinion, I think Todd Bowles shows that even when we have a secondary composed with Meriwether, Edwards, and Hayes getting cooked play after play, he still managed to make us competitive in the second half. So, I think shout out to Todd Bowles once again. Another thing that I learned watching this game is that for whatever reason, Cohen is a great play caller when we are playing ahead. But when it comes to finishing the game or coming from behind, there is a lot of struggling. There is a lot of struggling as well on the run. I think today, in some parts of the game, some of the play calling using Bucky Irving was reminding me of Canales last year, which was absolutely horrible. So I think that, I'm not dissing Cohen because I think he has a great future, but I think that he still has a lot to learn. There is a lot of developing still as a play caller and as an offensive coordinator. And I was just so happy for Mike Evans. Not only the 1,000 yards accomplishment, but I think it's just very special to come in a win that takes the team to the playoffs, and then against the Saints, then that's even better. So go Bucs! Thank you for the podcast, and let's hope that we win next week as well.
David, we appreciate you, man. Go Bucs! Great insight. We're going to tackle those points now, and we will talk to you soon. So, Evan, your thoughts here. I kind of want to dive a little bit more into Liam Cohen, his game that he called today on offense. The Bucs get the win. They make the important adjustments at halftime. They find a rhythm in the second half. But I got to say, if we are going to nitpick, if we are going to find some things to break down, which our buddy David offered up, I got to tell you, was it third down? That play call, the design quarterback run to Baker Mayfield, that may have been the worst call all year from Liam Cohen. With all due respect, that was a terrible call. The last thing I thought they were going to do in that situation was try and draw something up for Baker Mayfield to try and cover as much ground as he needed to as well. That was ridiculous. You know the situation I'm talking about.
Yeah, just because Baker's been feeling it with his legs doesn't mean that they feel it that much. I'd stay away from that one. You tried it once, it didn't work.
When they showed the replay, they sent Bucky Irving out just straight out from the right, out of the shotgun, and everybody on the Saints defense telegraphed it. I mean, every single defensive lineman made it through their block and went after Baker Mayfield. Nobody was even looking at Bucky Irving. So if they had just tossed it to Bucky, I'm surprised. I wouldn't have been surprised if that would have been, the conversion that they needed. Just a very interesting play call there. And, David had said that there were a couple of things that reminded him of Canales. That was maybe a play call that I would expect to see from Dave Canales, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe on a second and short, maybe you try something like that. Not on a third down though. But and then the 4th and 8, proceeded to happen. So yeah, I mean,
and then that was another nightmare sequence with penalties. It was 4th and 8 with a big time conversion.
Yeah. Well, that's By the way, McMillan's done that celebration all year, and he's never gotten flagged for
Exactly.
it. So,
Finger guns.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it's dumb. I get what they're trying to prevent, but I think it's stupid. So David brings up, about how, well, it seems like Cohen, calls a better game when he is. By the way, I Bleav Seattle's up 7-0 on the Rams right now. So when he is, up, right, rather than behind, I think that's the case for a lot of teams, right? I think that's the case for a lot of offensive coordinators and offense. It's easier to operate when you are up. You can work the run game more. You don't have to be as pass happy. I do think the the thing about Mike Evans, right? I think that matters, right? I think they wanted to, and I think Lee had brought this up. Like, I think they wanted to sort of blow the Saints out of the water early on. By that point, like, I think they wanted to, like, basically like the Carolina game last week. Like, I think they wanted to make a statement early, and it just didn't really go their way. New Orleans was playing pretty stingy coverage, and they were doing a pretty good job of taking away Mike Evans, and then the other options like McMillan didn't really do a whole lot in the first half. So I think they did a decent job there of, and credit to New Orleans, right? They played a good game, but I think it is easier when you are up, right? You're able to dictate things. You're able to manage the game a bit more, control the clock. And when you're down, especially when you're down 2 scores, with the Buccaneers were at points today, it becomes tougher, right? It's a race against time. It's a race against that clock. So I don't necessarily think it's, it's something that I think he can improve upon, right? And hopefully he feels like it's something he can improve upon and isn't ready to take a head coaching job, right? Because Peter Schrager had said again on the Fox pregame thing, like there's going to be some. No, I mean, he didn't say he's going to get a job, but he said there's going to be some interest in Liam Cohen. Also mentioned that there's going to be some interest in Mike Greenberg around the league for a potential GM job. So Mike Greenberg's been with the Buccaneers, he noted, for over 20 years, but he's starting to become one of the hotter names in league circles. So we'll see about that. But yeah, I mean, my one criticism for Cohen today was I didn't think they ran the ball enough, especially against the poor Saints defense. The one thing I will say is their screen game, which is usually money, right? The Bucs screen game has been really, really good this season. It was awful today. The Saints seemed to not. It's not even like the screen game was getting 2-3 yards. No, the Saints were blowing the plays up. It seemed like none of their screens were really working. They weren't really able to get anything going. Bucky Irving actually finished, I Bleav, with -5 receiving yards today. So he actually finished with negative receiving yards. And I think that the screen game just was not working whatsoever. So that's something that I think the Bucs got to improve on for next week.
Absolutely. A couple of other guys before we get to the next caller that stepped up in the receiving game. We already talked about Mike Evans, 9 receptions, 89 yards. Jalen McMillan with his monster day, 5 catches, 74 yards. Devin Culp showing up again. Couple of athletic catches, 2 receptions for 36 yards, and another big week for the tight ends as Payne Durham finds the end zone.
I Bleav both of those Culp catches were also on 3rd down. So yeah, pretty clutch plays there.
Big time plays. Those guys showing up when this team needs it. I'm trying to look at the statistics here for the Payne Durham touchdown. I was just going to say, I thought on that play in particular, it was a good job from Baker to kind of trust in his pocket. We had talked about that, where every now and again when he's forced to make a play with his legs, he has or can have a hard time reeling himself back in, trusting his offensive line, trusting the pocket to pass from. And he stepped up in the pocket, saw that thing through, and was able to spy out Payne Durham in the back of the end zone for a big-time touchdown. One more thing that David had talked about here before we get to our next call, and it was the adjustments at halftime. We got to give Todd Bowles credit. We already did that at the top of the show, but we'll do it again. I think we got to make sure we mention this, because I texted you in the second quarter when we were kind of going back and forth about how we thought this game was going to go. And I basically said, I was like, I'm hoping that these second half adjustments that everyone's been talking about since the bye week actually mean something today, because we've said it week in and week out. The Bucs, Todd Bowles in particular, his defense has done a really good job adjusting in the second half since the bye week. They've been one of the best teams in the NFL at neutralizing offenses in the second half of football games. We were holding out hope for that moment today. They had to make some major adjustments, and they pull out a major win. So I wanted to make sure we hit on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, also for all the skeptics out there, I can send a screenshot. I also texted Brett that I said still think they probably win. So, and this was, I believe, the Bucs were down either 13-6 or 16-6 at this point. So they were down in the game. So if everybody thinks I'm just always negative, take a chill pill. But yeah, I mean, this was, and I mean, look, the Bucs offense did a nice job again, though, today, right, of controlling the clock a little bit more. They obviously, it helps when they get the ball to start the second half, right? The Bucs get the ball to start the second half and go down and score a touchdown. That helps. So yeah, but the adjustments that Bowles made, again, I think it was disappointing. Like, was it an awful display of defense in the first half? Maybe not awful, but when you put it in the context of what the Saints had on offense,
Yeah.
that is what made it. I mean, this is a team without their starting quarterback, both starting wide receivers, and their starting running back. I mean, you got to be able to take care of business there, and the Bucs shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I don't want to spend all day talking about ifs and buts, but what happens if Alvin Kamara plays in this game? How different is the pace of that first half? How different are the Saints in the second half? Are they able to put up more points and be more competitive down the stretch? The world may never know, but we are going to get to our next caller here from the 626. You've been hanging on for a little while. We appreciate your patience. Who's this?
What's up, guys? It's Richard T. from the West Coast.
And your phone's fixed.
Yeah. I think last week I was calling on my lunch at work, and the connection in my headphones, it just wasn't having it. But I'm home today. We watched this game. Man, I got to tell you, I was not comfortable going into this game, just knowing what the Saints do to the Bucs. Every time in Tampa, it feels like, I mean, since 2017, Bucs are 2-5. Well, now 3-5 against the Saints. So it just wasn't comfortable. And even though, like you said, Evan, like with the Saints team being, really thin offensively, defensively, it still didn't feel right. Yeah, NFL said that we should have been favored 14 points. It still didn't sit right with me. So, needless to say, I was pretty on edge the entire game. I felt defeated in the first half. It just nothing was going right. And I hate that we have to wait till the second half to make those adjustments. I wish it could be sooner, but I guess that's why there's 60 minutes on the game, right? For to allow anything like that to happen. So, now that my heart's calmed down, really proud of the team, man. Just got emotional about Mike getting his 1K, and congratulations to everyone, all the Bucs fans, man. 4 consecutive division champs. Let's go.
It's a franchise record, team record. The Bucs have never won the NFC South 4 straight years in a row.
I don't think they've ever made the postseason 5 straight years either. So one hell of a run that they are on right now.
Yeah, I think the Bucs are the only team in the NFC right now to make consecutive playoffs in 5 straight years.
Yeah.
So that's an accomplishment. I know we've all been harping on Bowles, whether he should be head coach, whether he should be fired. But as much as we are critics of him during the bad times, we also have to give him his flowers during the good times. So this was a good team win. It was ugly. God, it was ugly. Ugly. But hold it off. And man, go Bucs. You guys, thank you for the entire season. You guys have an awesome podcast. Love listening to you guys. Even when I can't catch you live, I still listen to you guys while, somehow, some way while I'm cooking or driving on the way home or into work. So we plan on keeping the podcast going until we raise the Lombardi, right, guys? Let's do this.
Absolutely, Richard. Good. We appreciate your support all year, man, and look forward to talking to you in the playoffs. Yeah!
Let's go! Got the West Coast!
Go! Bucs are back in the playoffs, Woo! Richard. We appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs.
Go.
No, I cut off. No. I'm sorry, Richard. Phones are still on.
After all that, see ya.
Phones are still on if you'd like to come in and scream some more. 305-224-1968, the meeting ID on your screen.
Also, really quick.
Go ahead.
And I think actually Trevor Sikkema, friend of the pod, has he tweeted this, but I wanted to mention it as well. Shout out to Todd Bowles because he could have very easily had said just take a knee. But instead he wanted to get Mike Evans that record. So because throwing the ball there is dumb. like throwing the ball there is not smart whatsoever. So I mean, if that ball gets tipped up in the air and picked off, but yeah, so he said, to basically, get Mike Evans that record. So shout out to Todd Bowles for that decision. Because it's at the end of the day, it's his call. And I think you sort of saw, Liam Cohen, him and Liam Cohen were having a chat. And I think probably at that point, Liam Cohen was probably asking him, like, what do you want me to do? Like, are we taking a knee, or do you want me to do this, to try and get him this? So Bowles makes that call. So shout out to him for that. Look, there's been a lot of things, and there's going to continue to be conversations, right, about his future and stuff. It's just, it comes with the territory. But I think he deserves some credit, right? I mean, and also, something that's lost here, a double-digit win season, right, for the first time since 2021. So Buccaneers won 8 games in 2022 and then 9 games last year. So they've had an increase of 1 game every year since they won, I Bleav, 13. The 13-4 year, I think was that the franchise record for most wins in the year? I don't Bleav they ever had 13 wins in a year.
Never.
So
And it was the first season. First season, the NFL went to 17 games and they won 13 of them, and they were the 2 seed behind the Packers.
Yeah. Which ended up actually hurting them. We could relive that all day. But regardless, so shout out to Todd Bowles for that decision. There's a lot of things, that there can be improved upon, right? There's a lot of things, but that decision is going to remain. I think Trevor said something about, like, it's going to remain in the history books, basically, right? Because if he decides to take a knee, and then honestly, like, would you have you would have been annoyed, you would have been angry, but could you really have blamed him, right? Like, weird stuff can happen any day. You're trying to win the football game, right? That's your first priority, is to win the game. So yeah, that was a pretty cool moment there. But yeah, overall, I think that this Bucs team, they battled through a lot this year, and there's been ups and downs as there was last year. Last year is very similar to this year, right? It was a very similar thing, very similar situation. Having to clinch the NFC South on the last week, of the season against a division opponent. They also sweep the Saints this year, so it got swept by the Falcons, but swept the Saints and the Panthers. So, pretty cool thing there. They, I Bleav, end their 2024 season. They're on a home win streak right now, obviously, because I think their last home loss was to San Francisco. So that was right the game before the bye week. So they've been better at home, whereas early in the season they weren't as good. Had a couple of tough losses there to Atlanta, Baltimore. Had a couple of difficult ones there. But so credit to everybody, right? And the front office, for building it. I know a lot of people, I've understood that Jason Light, a lot of, I'd say most Bucs fans are Jason Light fans, right? You might get a few that criticize him here or there, but for the most part, people, I think, recognize, just how good he's been. And I think it's a testament to it, keeping this thing going as, Tom Brady retires and Rob Gronkowski isn't there anymore and Antonio Brown isn't there anymore. And the pieces from the Super Bowl, right? Those pieces start to go away. And sometimes you see teams aren't the same, right? Teams just aren't the same. And, the Jason Light and the Bucs have been able to hold this thing together. And I think he deserves a lot of everybody in the front office. Jason Light, Mike Greenberg, obviously, who, like I said, Schrager mentioned as a candidate for a potential GM job. And that's for good reason, right? It's partly because of this. John Spytek, Jackie Davidson, a lot of people in that front office deserve a lot of credit for this, as do the coaches.
Absolutely. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there, but Todd Bowles, this is improvement.
He's an enigma, man.
I know.
He's an enigma.
Good Lord. We're having a different conversation about this guy week to week. One of the most divisive characters in recent history for the Buccaneers, and they've had a roster full of those guys from the quarterback position to, potential diva wide receivers and Antonio Brown. Like, they've had a lot of divisive players. Devin White in 2023. Like, there's been a lot of guys that fans have very strong opinions on. Todd Bowles, no doubt, another one. But he deserves credit. 10 wins this year is an improvement. It sucks that they had some of the losses along the way. It sucks that they really had to play their asses off down the stretch after the bye week. They were playing for their lives week in and week out for another year in a row, and we were kind of begging the question, is this the best you're going to see from a Todd Bowles-led football team? And I mean,
I Bleav last year, final 7 games, they went 5-2. This year, they went 6-1. So, I mean, they've had to, 2 years in a row, they've had to make some runs, but they got it done.
They got it done. And, we will see what they look like in the postseason. Obviously,
well, and
you got
also,
to figure out who they're playing.
I think that the thing about Liam Cohen, that what matters too, right? The whole Liam Cohen thing. Like, we'll see what happens. If push comes to shove, how badly do they want to keep Liam Cohen? And I think that's a conversation for another day. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. A lot can happen right between now and then, but yeah, that's what I think the conversation is going to be, and right now that's a complete unknown. So we'll see what happens. But regardless, Bowles does deserve some serious credit here.
Absolutely, and we don't have any more callers. I think we got through everybody. My friend,
thanks everybody for calling in.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody. This is obviously the last post-game show of the 2024-2025 regular season. So we'll see you guys for the playoffs, and we appreciate all the support for the shows. I know a lot of the callers that said, like, they've listened all year. Like, we appreciate you guys, right? This podcast is nothing without the listeners. So we appreciate all the support. We appreciate the support on the YouTube channel just in general. We've added a lot of newer content, different content than just the podcast. So we appreciate all the support, and we're hoping that you guys are here for at least one more week too, as like I said, it's wild card edition for all this stuff.
We'll give out a couple of game balls here to wrap things up, just some top players of the game. I'm going to start on the defense, specifically the defensive line, and I got to give it to big Vita Vea. He's a monster. He completely shut down the Saints run game. I'm not entirely sure why they were running the ball as late into the game as they were. Vita Vea seemed like he was there every step of the way. He only has 3 tackles on the day, but he also gets a sack. Who finished with the team lead? Was it Kalijah Kancey who led the team?
Kalijah Kancey has beaten Vita Vea by half a sack. So the take from August comes true that Kalijah Kancey will lead the team in sacks. I Bleav Vita Vea finishes with 7, and Kalijah Kancey has 7.5 to lead the Bucs.
Great year for both of those big guys inside the interior. I think on the season prediction show, I also said they were going to go 10-7 this year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think either 9 or 10-7. 11-6 felt a little rich. So I don't think.
Yeah. So I think 10-7 is what I went with. I'll have to try and find that. But who do you got here for the next game ball? We'll do as many of them as we want to, but maybe 3.
Gotta give it to Mike Evans. And look, I mean, the Bucs made it and we knew they were going to, right? I mean, they made a concerted effort to get Mike Evans the football today. And again, we knew that they were going to. Betting the Bucs, we took the over on receptions, took the over on yards as well, I think. Didn't hit. The yards didn't hit, a little bit short of that, but is what it is. Evans was fantastic. 9 catches for 89 yards, a bunch of targets too. I mean, they target him early and often. Saints did a good job doubling him, making things not easy, for the Buccaneers. I mean, literally down to the wire to get him those 1,000 yards. But yeah, he deserves a game ball for that. And it was pretty cool moment there. Honestly, probably one of the cooler moments of the entire season. Just in terms, not really a play, just in terms of like moments. Was a pretty cool scene there at Raymond James Stadium.
Well, and I've seen other people say this already on social media, but when you talk about how much one single player means to a fan base of an organization, I've said time and time again why Mike Evans means so much to Bucs fans, because, I mean, this guy has been through
everything
in a red and pewter uniform. He is
his rookie season. They won 2 games. So.
Yeah, I mean, from 2-14 to a Super Bowl champion, now tying Jerry Rice and his record for the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in NFL history.
Next year you got to break it.
Exactly. Bonafide.
Next year there's even more on the line.
Man, if you keep him healthy every week next year, and Liam Cohen
he
is
reached
back in
over
Tampa,
1,000 yards while missing 3 games. Like, if people are going to make the argument, well, he only got it because there was a 17th game. That's correct, but he also missed 3 games. So
he got it in 14. I mean,
yeah. But you also said if you keep Liam Cohen, I don't even know if you have to keep Liam Cohen because that's something else that Mike Evans been through all different types of offensive coordinators.
That's true. You gotta make sure you recognize the consistency from Mike Evans, all kind of pass catchers and offensive coordinators in the mix, but a bona fide Hall of Famer, and seriously, one of, I think, my favorite Tampa Bay Buccaneer of all time. Derek Brooks is going to be number 1 on my all-time list just because he is Mr. Buccaneer. He was, the cream of the crop at his position for his entire career, basically. Mike Evans is right there with him. He's my person.
And I mean, hey, if he plays a little bit longer, who knows? Mike Evans might surpass Derek Brooks. So
You're not wrong. Our final game ball, we're going to split it down the middle here and give it to the Buccaneers running backs. And by running backs, I mean Bucky Irving and Baker Mayfield. I wanted to give it to Baker because it was just a gutsy performance. Again, put his body on the line today several times, made some of the biggest plays with his legs when they mattered. And then Bucky Irving with the big-time touchdown at the end of the game. They really got him going in the second half. So I'm going to split it between those guys, but I thought some of the more effective plays of the day were made on the legs of both of those players.
Yeah, I mean, and clutch plays, especially by Mayfield there on the Bucs. When they kick the field goal before the half, Bucky Irving has a big 25-yard run. Mayfield has the run on 3rd and 14. So really down the stretch there, made some big plays. Irving caps off his really incredible rookie season with a touchdown. So he gets in the end zone one more time for the regular season, and hopefully, he'll just hopefully keep getting better, right? Keep progressing, keep getting better. I'd like to see him maybe involved next season in the passing game a little bit more. If you want me honest with you, I think there's a little bit more there to unlock, but Bucky Irving was great, and Baker Mayfield made plays with his legs when they needed it the most.
Excited to see what happens for this Bucs team in the playoffs. Once again, you just got to get to the dance. Anything can happen in the NFL. So we will keep you updated every step of the way as soon as we find out who the Bucs are going to be playing on Super Wild Card Weekend. We will let you know. Another home playoff game as well for the NFC South Champions. A great win. And a great post-game show. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. At one time, we had over 350 people in here with us, and everybody who called in on the Autograph fan line throughout the regular season. We appreciate your guys' support. Make sure you keep it locked here, youtube.com/cannonfirepodcast. We have got all kinds of Buccaneer news and updates throughout the week, getting you ready for the game, betting the Bucs, players to watch, best and worst. And then, of course, you got a couple of episodes with yours truly and Mr. Evan Wanish over there. Follow our show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow
Even
my
the
co-host.
dog's excited.
Yeah, she's very excited about Bucs news. Instagram, Bucs_Daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What have you got this week?
Well, right now I have an update, but Seattle's up 14-3 on the Rams. Rams have the ball, so we'll see. Right now, Bucs would be in line for the 3 seed. We'll see what happens. But so far this week, gonna have post-game reactions from clinching an NFC South crown yet again. Gonna have reactions from all social media about Mike Evans breaking 1,000 yards, this and that. So then, as the week goes on, whatever the opponent is, we'll get you ready for that, or the wild card weekend. So we will see what happens and who the Bucs play. If you're listening to us on audio, we appreciate you listening on audio. We appreciate you all season listening on audio. But as has been the case all year, if you want a little bit more content, head over to the Cannon Fire Podcast YouTube channel. As Red had mentioned, we're going to have stuff still recapping this game. All right, we're not going to completely close the book on this game just yet. We have best and worst coming out on Victory Monday. And we also have our midweek show once we know the Bucs opponent. So like that midweek show, we'll know who the opponent is. So we'll have a little bit more insight there. And then also as the week week goes on, we have Betting the Bucs Wild Card Edition, as well as Players to Watch Wild Card Edition. So stay tuned for that all week long on the Can of Fire Podcast YouTube channel. And we appreciate all the support the entire year. It's really something we dabbled with it last year a little bit, did some stuff from time to time, but this is really the first year we've consistently done this for an entire season of basically having content out almost every single day of the week, whether it be long or short form content. So I just want to thank everybody for all the support on that stuff.
Wild Card Edition. I like that. It sounds provocative. It gets the people going.
It does.
Last but not least, you can find myself, Instagram, and Twitter at Redicus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. But that's the show. Thank you once again, everybody, for hanging out with us in the live chat. Buck Wild, the moderator, holding it down. Richard T. from the West Coast. Edwin Hernandez, Drifts 924, Mikey Kelly, Sir Bandit Dub, Second Win Stories, Bill Camprius, our good friend Lee Ayers, KJF, Tom Bucks fan, Space Windu, some familiar faces in here. Trying to make sure I get everybody. Rock 813,
Some
Teron
pretty good
Ward.
names too. I mean, Space Window is pretty dope.
I like it. You got to make sure you get them in. For the final time this regular season, thank you guys for hanging out with us. I'm your co-host, good Lord. I'm your host, Rhett Matthews, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will talk to you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucks.